Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the show. A lot of people have heard the story in this last week that XRP was delisted from Coinbase wallets due to low usage. But could it be possible that Blackrock is actually the reason behind this delisting? We're going to be talking about that and a whole lot more in this video. This is the Investing Bros live show that airs every single weekday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. I am your host, Tim Warren, and I am joined by the king of the market pulse himself, T-Shroom. How are you doing, T-Shroom, this morning?
Better than I deserve. And I didn't realize I was king of the market pulse.
You are king of the market pulse.
I did kind of
Official
see
title.
myself as duke of the market pulse, but I've been escalated to king, so that's great.
Why? Let's unpack that a little bit. Why Duke? Is this just a humility move?
There's just a lot of insecurities.
You're just not ready for that level of power yet.
Yeah, a lot of insecurities around the market pulse.
That's
You know,
fair.
I didn't get all the positive affirmations I would have liked.
I could see that. I could be fair.
But now that I'm king, I'm gonna take that immaturity with me, and I'm gonna rule unjustly over the market pulse.
Goodness gracious. We're gonna have a fun show today, everybody. It is gonna be really good. First of all, T-Shroom doesn't have to run off to work. So
Yeah.
I'm not saying we're gonna run a lot past 10.
Yeah.
But we don't necessarily have to end right at 10. If the discussion is good and chat is engaged, we will actually be able to go maybe a little bit longer today. But before we do that, let's make sure with our daily reminders, if you have not already, go ahead and smash that like button. If you are new here, welcome. We're so glad you're here. Subscribe to the channel for more content where we daily bring you everything you need to know about investing. And we help you guys are going to watch our journey as we invest, and we want to see you guys come on with us as we invest to change our lives for the better. But some other cool things. We're a smaller channel. This is new. This is only the third episode ever. So it's going to be hard sometimes on YouTube to get seen. If you would go ahead and smash that notification bell, so anytime we go live, you will be notified immediately and you can come in and join. And then on top of that, make sure to use that share button. Share this with all of your friends, especially episodes that you find extremely helpful along your journey. If you think it's helpful, odds are the people around you are as well. So go ahead and help us out and share every single episode you can. The last thing is go ahead and engage with us in chat. Let us know how you're doing in chat this morning. But also when the video is over, go ahead and leave a comment down below telling us what you loved, what you didn't like, maybe some things you want to see us do in the future so that we can create the best content possible, but also get that engagement in chat to be able to be pushed by YouTube. But let's go ahead and jump in before we get moving, and we're going to check in with chat here in just a second, do some technical analysis and others. T-Shroom, what are some of the headlines we're going to be discussing in the second half hour of the show? What are some stories other than just the Coinbase and Blackrock news? I know there's a lot more out there, but what are we going to be talking about today?
Well, today we are going to be talking a little bit about this this whole BlackRock and Apple, and we're going to be getting into Coinbase taking XRP. We're going to be digging deeper into that. We think that lemon has not been squeezed enough, so we're going to dive in deeper. We're also going to be talking about how the BNB, one of their, actually on Ankor, the wrapped BNB token was manipulated and hacked and printed to infinity, which is really, really bad. And we're going to talk about that a little more. And then there was a major suspension on Twitter yesterday, and we're going to be getting into the details of Ye getting suspended from Twitter. And maybe this was the permanent suspension of Ye from Twitter. Guys, that story is going to get really interesting. We're going to talk about that toward the end. We may even talk about a little bit of Jim Cramer's predictions yesterday from CNBC.
Yeah.
So definitely look forward to it. And so glad that you guys are tuning in. Definitely like and sub and share. Back to you, Tim.
Yeah, well, before we jump in, we're going to do some technical analysis this morning. Nothing crazy. I saw a tweet last night that was like the entire crypto space just kind of paused, and that's kind of true. But we're going to do some, just take a fresh look at the charts this morning. Before that, let's check in with chat. We got what it says is 25 people watching. I'm sure that number's going to grow here a little bit more. But we got Gia S in chat. How are you doing, Gia S? Scott J saying, good morning, boys. Rose Petal, love that name. Tyler Main, Grand Roofing Incorporated. Brian Hoskins said good morning. Mercedes Halley says good morning, everybody. Anybody, I'm sure I'm not going to beat all the names. Cash Cats. Mike Markle with the blue check. By the way, guys, I know a lot of people are going to reach out to us and they're going to ask if they can become moderators. I would love, especially, I mean, everyone watching right now is going to become an OG of this channel. We're going to need lots of moderators to keep this chat clean. If you guys watched episode 1, we talked about the vision for this channel being a very clean, very engaging and collaborative space where we do not want toxicity. And to do that, you need good moderators. So if you're not made a moderator in the beginning, don't take that harsh. That if we made everyone a moderator that probably could be a great moderator for us, you would see nothing but blue names in chat. So right now we're gonna keep that list small, but as we grow as a channel, we definitely will be taking on more moderators. So don't think that just if you don't have it here in the beginning, that means you'll never will. Scott J says done and done at Investing Bros. Thank you so much. Jason Max said, what up, fellas? Good and bad job payroll news. Was hoping for a link pump prior to staking.
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk about the payroll news
here
in a sec.
I didn't get that. What happened with payroll news?
It looks like it's coming in kind of bearish, so we'll talk about that though more.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, let's go ahead and jump in here. Go ahead, continue. If you guys are just joining, welcome. Smash that like button. We almost have as many likes as listeners. We can get that to grow though. Let's jump in and let's do some technical analysis. And usually we start with Bitcoin, but let's start with Cardano. I kind of threw Cardano in at the end of yesterday. Let's take a look at a couple things happening there. I'm going to start down on the hourly chart and then maybe extrapolate and move to some bigger charts down the road. But in case you guys missed the end of the show, Cardano is doing something really interesting right now, where we have a flat top, but our support is starting to rise. It doesn't go all the way back here. That line doesn't really extrapolate that far. You guys are going to see it kind of misses that one. And if you go up to that point, now you're cutting off a lot of information. So we're going to go ahead and leave it here with the wicks that we've had. Let's see. This is ever since the 27th or so. So this is a good sign, though, because this is an ascending triangle for Cardano. Why do I say that? I don't know if you guys have been following or invested in Cardano. Cardano is one of the greatest projects out there fundamentally, but has some of the biggest hate as well that really suppresses the price. So when you've seen even Bitcoin has had more of a rally recently, Ethereum for sure has been rallied. These other ones have been rallying. Link had a nice rally. Let's see, did Dot? I haven't checked Dot here in a little bit. Yeah, Dot had a nice rally. Cardano didn't really have that nice of a rally. It's kind of staying suppressed right here. But hopefully the goal of this would be, and what I'm looking at from the technical standpoint, could this just be a part of something bigger where it actually ends up bouncing out of this? And if we were to extrapolate what this would look like, go ahead and take the opening of this this kind of pattern been forming and move that over to the breakout point. I'll just kind of go here in the middle. We'll find an average. It's going to be right here hovering below this point around 34 cents. When I go out to the daily chart, you'll see why 34 cents is significant. But for now, there is a good hope and good reason to believe that Cardano on the charts could be ready and primed for a rally coming very soon.
It looks like it wicked up to around those levels a little while ago.
It wicked up to those levels back here on the 19th of November. But what we're looking at is a lot of this on the hour chart, shorter time frame stuff. I'll zoom out here in just a second, but I want to look at kind of some of the oscillators. Right now, the oscillators are sitting actually in a very good position, a prime position to have a good breakout to the upside. We did earlier when we came down here, even though we set a higher low, we had that green cloud come in that said it was oversold. So the fact that we had been climbing and got an oversold cloud come in on this Lux Algo oscillator is phenomenal. We're not really sitting in a spot where, we're not at the bottom anymore, but we're not at the top either. So there is definitely room on the hourly chart to grow. Let's zoom out and look at a little more on Cardano. Of course, so let's start with these two blue lines. These blue lines are significant. I'm going to have to go out the daily chart to look at these. These blue lines are significant because we discussed this actually a little bit back when I was over with Coffee and Crypto. This was something I was keeping my eyes on with those levels because Cardano had been kind of operating almost with this flat level of support right here. Let me go ahead and actually draw this. I don't know why it's not on my chart currently, but there was this flat level of support, and yeah, that just is one wick. Doesn't even really do it justice. It was more like this zone right here. And you guys will notice after we ended up breaking down, come back up and retest that zone as resistance. But there were 2 points that I put on here, and it actually served perfectly. When we were holding the support zone, Cardano was going to do one of two things. It was going to break up and actually start to rally, or if it fell, I listed these 2 points, 34 cents and about 30 cents, as zones to keep an eye on for support. And sure enough, both of those ended up being significant. We now are down at that 30-cent zone region, a little bit above it. We're at 31.40, give or take. But the next stop, the next resistance level to keep your eyes on would be going back to that zone that we highlighted earlier this year, like about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, around 34 cents. I'm going to be keeping my eyes on that point. And if we can break through that, you guys are going to notice some other lines I have drawn when we're looking here at Cardano is since May of this year, Cardano actually has been forming a falling wedge pattern. Now, what's really good about falling wedge patterns is they eventually break to the upside. What's bad about this pattern is we're kind of sitting in a zone where this could have been the last bottom touch. We absolutely could use this zone and go ahead and rally, break through, and end up having a bullish breakout out of this falling wedge pattern. I also definitely could see us just go ahead and making one more bounce off resistance and potentially curling back down, setting a new low around levels that make a lot of sense, 26, 25 cents. And then that's when we potentially bottom and go to the upside. Now, why is 25 cents potentially why I said it's a good little bottom spot? Let's zoom out here for just a second, go off my marker here, and let's look at something from an even bigger macro picture. All right, so we got a lot of Cardano. Let me straighten out the screen for you guys here really quickly. And I'm going to go to log chart for this real quickly, and then I'm going to switch back. So using Fibonacci, if you guys were to actually go ahead and grab the bottom that we had back here, what was that, back in January of 20, give or take. All right, that wouldn't quite be January. That'd be actually March of 2020. Going up to the all-time high that we had last year in around August, where we got up over $3. Probably had no business Cardano being that high. Either way, we hit it. Now what we are looking at is on Fibonacci, what is a good level that we could come down and find support and then bounce? And that's going to be right there around, this is a little lower, but on 24 cents is our 0.5 region. The reason I said I wanted to draw it on the log is easier to draw. Let's go down to the linear chart and see what's happening down here. This one's not, okay, so we're actually past the 0.786. So this Fibonacci is going to be, when we're looking at the log chart, it's a little bit lower. But the other thing you're going to see, not only just Fibonacci, let's go ahead and also use our fixed range volume profile over the same period of time. And you're going to find that we have, let's see, this little dip right here, this hill that we're currently sitting in. Let me zoom out for you guys just a little bit. This hill that we're sitting in, the valley sits right there at 25 cents. Why is that significant? Well, there's a lot of reason to believe that Cardano is ready to rally. There's actually a lot of fundamental reasons in Cardano's camp that bullish nature should come back into the space. If there was a lot of bearish pressure, so if everything about Cardano was falling apart, if the coin, the token was just falling apart, if Charles Hoskinson was on this whole thing where he's just being defamed and he's looking like an idiot, and you could say there's a lot of pressure for the bulls to win, what you'd actually be looking at is a fall all the way down to this peak level of volume around 14 cents. But due to the news, the sentiment, and the fundamentals of Cardano being so strong, it actually would make a lot of sense for it to fall to a valley, to a small point where there's not a lot of volume. That's where it finds support before it can finally tackle getting back above this huge mountain of volume and then starting to climb back up towards new all-time highs in the future. So for those reasons, I'm not saying that Cardano won't go lower than 25 cents, and I'm not even saying that it goes all the way to 25 cents, but it is a point that I'm interested in seeing. Let me go off the log chart here and go back to that. You see that falling wedge. It is going to be interesting to see if we cannot get past this level of resistance over here, closer around 38 cents or so. If we cannot break through that red line, watch potentially one more touch around that 25-cent region. It would make a whole lot of sense. And then after that is when I think the real bullish pressure could come in. But we'll keep you guys updated on what's happening with Cardano. That is just what I'm seeing on the charts. Make sure you guys are doing your own technical analysis to fill in all the details as well. Let's go ahead and look at some Bitcoin. I'm not going to spend a lot of time necessarily here because we've been talking about this a whole lot. But for anyone who has not been watching or has been asking, what are some things to keep an eye on? Good news, we actually broke bullish out of a falling wedge pattern and we have turned it into support. That doesn't mean that the bottom is in, because as you guys can see, now that you've done that, you can test this level of former resistance that support several times. But for now, that is a good sign that this falling wedge pattern, this is not a pattern that any trader would look at and say, I'm comfortable shorting. So if it's not a good short situation, maybe potentially we could be seeing a good long situation open up down the road. Let's zoom in here and see what's happening on a more shorter time frame. The first thing I'm going to continue to say, continue to watch this zone of support. I'm actually going to the 4-hourly chart so it's a little clearer here. continue to watch this zone of support as resistance. This was a support zone that we've been in for several months since June. We finally broke through it after that SBF news. Now watch it used as resistance. I also talked about yesterday, don't be surprised if we end up coming back down and retesting this blue level here, and sure enough, this morning it does look like we have some red candles coming in, but we'll keep you guys posted. If something changes during the show, we'll do some updates and we'll let you guys know what's happening on the chart. But right now, if it were to come down and touch this blue line, that doesn't really scare me or hurt me whatsoever. That actually would make a lot of sense for the price action to actually come back down, touch blue, and then rally up to this former support turned resistance. And that's when the question mark comes in. Can we actually gain the strength to break through it and end up rallying to the upside, or do we get rejected off of it and end up coming back down and then maybe potentially starting to head back down to set new lows? We're going to keep you guys updated on what's happening there with Bitcoin, but right now, nothing special is happening. If you are not already in a long or already in a short, I don't recommend jumping in right now, because there's a lot of reasons to think that we could continue to the upside, but there might be a little dip before that happens. Let's move on to Ethereum and check out what's happening on those charts. What time do I got? Oh, we got lots of time.
Plenty of time.
Ethereum, I really love what's happening on Ethereum's chart from a bullish perspective. So good. Remember when I was just talking about with Bitcoin, how support can turn into resistance, and it's really, really key that you break through it. Well, the same thing has happened with Ethereum, only Ethereum actually went ahead and did the bullish thing. Let's start actually refreshing people from a more macro perspective. Kind of similar to Bitcoin, but different. Ethereum's in an ascending, falling wedge of its own. It has not broken out of. You guys are going to see several touches, 1, 2, 3, and now over here, 4 touches of resistance on this green dotted line, several levels of support. Yes, there was a breakout that broke below, but we broke back into it, and these support levels became significant once again. So I do want to see over the next couple of weeks and months, I want to see us break through this green line once again and start to rally up. But I'm going to take the victories where we can get them as far as where Ethereum is involved. Ethereum did what Bitcoin has not done yet, and that is this little zone that was utilized as resistance back here in July. It was used as support here in September and October, turned back into resistance over the last couple of weeks. Ethereum has climbed it, and then when you zoom in, you're looking at these candles, it not only climbed and got and broke above, it's now using this zone as support. So this is a bullish sign for Ethereum. Doesn't mean with absolute certainty that it can't drop below it, but when you're talking about trading probabilities, there's a strong level of support right now sitting around 1,268 on Ethereum. Let's keep our eyes on that zone, but there is a chance. This is one that I would consider maybe not throwing your whole bag at, but if you have a little bit of money, you want to enter a trade, a long position, Ethereum, just from what I'm looking at in the candles and looking at support and resistance zone, is looking prime that it potentially could have some fresh moves all the way up as high for a 9-10% gain, maybe a 9% gain up to that resistance level. I want to look at the oscillators of this really quickly though. Before, you always want to look for confluence when you're making these moves. So on the 4-hourly chart, we definitely have room for the upside. Now, yes, we're sitting in more of a overbought zone, but when you see here with the peak of the RSI matching the peak, a lot of times to get some strong resistance and to come back down, you're looking for some bearish RSI divergence. So potentially could we watch and wait for some of that to develop? Watch to see potentially as Ethereum begins to move, can the RSI continue to climb? And what I mean by that is, can the RSI actually outdo this level, come up, come back down, and then create some bearish divergence, where in the meantime the same price action happens, the price moves up, moves back down, and then hits this line and comes back down, setting up that bearish RSI divergence that sends us back down. I don't think that Ethereum is ready to break through this line just yet, but potentially we are on our way back up to touch it, in which case there's money to be made in a trade on Ethereum. Right now, based off the 3 that I'm looking at, I think that the most money, when we're looking at Cardano, Ethereum, Bitcoin, the most money out there absolutely could be Cardano. Like this is what's going to happen, everybody. And you can go to my screen, my full screen here real quickly, and then we'll go back to the chart. Cardano, one morning or one afternoon when none of us are expecting, is going to blow up. It's going to out of nowhere get a buttload of volume, and the green candles are going to start flowing, and we're not going to catch it until it's at least midway through. That's going to happen at some point. I don't know when, but it will happen. Bitcoin is probably the easiest one to actually predict. And when I say easy, it's still hard. There's still a lot of false calls out there. But there's enough volume in the space. Bitcoin's large enough with a lot of volume that technical analysis is a lot easier to utilize to predict when and where things are going to happen. Ethereum isn't necessarily as great as Bitcoin when you're able to read it, but it's definitely better than Cardano. And if you're asking Tim, what is the best long, the safest long right now? It is looking to me at the charts, it's looking like Ethereum. I absolutely think if we get a lot of bullish momentum in the crypto space, the biggest gains probably will be Cardano. This kind of happens. You go through seasons. Remember I told you guys, I was going through the charts. We've had a good little rally on Bitcoin, on Ethereum, on Link, on DOT, on Atom, on Matic. We haven't had that on Cardano. They go through seasons where they change off. A big Cardano rally is coming. I just don't know when. And as an investor, as a trader, you might have a small amount of money. You say, you know what? I'm going to put this in the unknown. I'm going to put this in this is my really risky money. So if it ends up not making anything, I'm fine with that. But it could be big time. Let me go and just put a little over there. That's the kind of money I'm putting in Cardano right now. But my more sure money, if I'm looking for a long position right now and I want maybe, there's nothing's 100%, but I want something that I'm like, I'm pretty certain this is actually going to be successful over the next couple of days. Ethereum's chart is looking extremely advantageous. I want to go out. You can go back to my screen here real quick. And this is where it even looks better. The daily chart is sitting right there around the 50 on the RSI. The Lux oscillator is sitting right there in the middle. This is what I actually am looking at and saying I think that there's room to the upside for Ethereum. Again, to break through that green line, I don't know if it's ready for that yet. I don't know if we're going to surpass 1400 over the next couple of days or weeks, but I do think there's a good chance, looking at what the technicals are setting up for us, that we could be going back to that level. Let me actually do one more thing with Ethereum before I move on. And that is looking at our fixed exchange volume profile. So look at this right here. Right now, we're sitting at the level. We got rejected by this level, this peak that we had around 1292. Let's just go ahead and call it roughly 1300. But watch us potentially head back to, over this period of time that I'm highlighting since June, the main point, the most predominant, the average point that people have been trading and exchanging money at is around 1330. Watch potentially as we kind of get back to wrestle with that zone, maybe even make it all the way to this peak, closer to about 1355 before we start to have some resistance. We'll keep you guys posted on what is happening with that, but that is what I'm looking at on the charts with crypto today. T-Shroom, before we kind of open up for some chat questions, any thoughts you have about charts you're looking at, or anything that I was looking at that you had a question or observation that I missed?
No, I mean, I definitely like, kind of the way that you're using that new VPVR, indicator. I think it's really useful to be using it in that way, and just kind of, be trading the levels and establishing those levels even kind of in that way, using that indicator. So really good stuff. Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and let's jump into some chat. We're going to, in about 5 minutes, we're going to start talking about stocks, and we're talking about the market open happening very soon. But I want to engage with chat here a little bit. And if there's anything you guys want me to look at on the charts, I'm more than happy to jump on and do some of that as well.
So Scotty J said, this is a new type of TA for me. It's great to learn new styles, and had a happy face. So yeah, Tim has a unique approach. I mean, everybody does TA a little bit differently. Tim has a unique approach. Definitely really good to, explore new horizons and see how other people do it.
I think another thing, I go through seasons where I'll use certain things more than others, but I'll look for them. So actually, that's a great reminder. This is something I want to talk about, should mention before. But I love formations, but I hadn't been necessarily engaging in a whole lot of formations recently. Let me go down to the 4-hourly chart on Bitcoin. So here's another potential bullish thing. Now, it doesn't always happen this way, but another bullish thing that's going to send us back up towards this former support zone turn resistance, and that is this little inverse head and shoulders pattern. This is actually one of the cleaner inverse head and shoulders pattern we've seen. There's actually a lot of times you see when this formation happens that it's not really pretty. And you kind of got to ask the question: Are technical analysts kind of stretching this one? This one, actually, I'm going to go ahead and say this is a good little clean chart. And so let's make a prediction based off of this. And ultimately, people say that it always goes, or it should go the full length of this breakout. I've found if you can get it to go the full length, that's great. But ultimately, I would still call it a success if you get about 75% of this. So going from the bottom of that head up to the neckline, this would give us a prediction on Bitcoin of sitting at about 18,000, which is great. It still puts us well within the zone of that former support resistance. And I'm going to keep my eyes on 17.6. You still want to see a confluence. There's a couple reasons, though, this actually makes sense now that I'm looking at it. it. We have our wicks, our peaks over here. So while all the candle bodies on the 4-hourly chart got rejected, right here at 17,600, again, significant level. There were some wicks on 3 different candles that actually broke through and went up as high as that 18,000. I don't know if I said 1,800 a second ago. Sometimes I get jumbled when I go back and forth between Ethereum and Bitcoin TA. But I think anywhere, what you're really looking at, I think, especially based off this inverse head and shoulders pattern, what we're seeing happen on the oscillators, the fact that we have this rising support, we've broken, and in this short trend line where we were setting lower highs and, not necessarily lower lows, is kind of a combination of higher. It's complicated. But the fact that we set a higher high and the trend has changed on this really tertiary timeline of crypto, of Bitcoin specifically, I think anything potentially within this box, as far as 1,800, maybe even to 17,600. Keep your eyes on this little box, like a box within a box. I'm gonna have to change the color on this one so that it's more identifiable. There we go. So yeah, keep our eyes on this one based off of this. But yeah, I want everyone to know, like, you're gonna find when you're looking at technical analysts, I don't think I've ever seen 2 technical analysts look at things identically. Yet, more often than not, you're going to see them come to similar conclusions, at least in more micro stuff. Macro, I definitely have seen a varying opinions of experts who, some people say we're going down to 9,000. Some people say we're going down to 13,000. Some people say we're going down to 5,000. And then others say the next bull market's going to be 100,000. Some people say 500,000. Certain ones say there's a chance for, even all the way up to 1 million within the next couple of years. Those ones, you're going to see a lot more difference. But on shorter time frame stuff, you're going to see a lot of technical analysts agree on points, but they have different routes of getting there. And that's because there are several ways to do technical analysis. You got to find the right one for you. Mm-hmm. Don't just look at something that someone else does and say, well, they do it, so that must be right, because you never know, and I can tell you this from personal experience, you never know what the person is kind of doing in their brain, that they're looking at something, but they're computing different ideas in their brain that they're not even speaking out loud, that to them, they see things happening and their brain is pushing off these numbers, and they don't say it, and your brain's going to be very lost as to what they're talking about. You've got to find what your system is, what your process is, what you like, and how you like to read things, and then understand you're never going to be 100% correct. There's not a single one of us that are. You're working at probabilities, and you're working at being right more often than you're wrong, and if that's how you can operate, you'll end up making good money in the trading game.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, GS had some interesting comments. She said, my ETH is so in the hole, I need a DCA more to get that cost down. Just a little tough on the budget right now. Yeah, I think a lot of us are feeling that.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Here's another thing about investing. If you can DCA to get your cost down, Gia, that's great. I think that's phenomenal. But I just wouldn't cry too much over spilled milk. Like, let's say your average buy-in on Cardano is sitting right now at 80 cents. Is that as good as if your average buy-in was sitting at 40 cents? No, it's not. But down the road, when Cardano is actually sitting at, back at $3 all-time high, when it starts climbing to $7, $8, $9, $10, is there a difference between investing at 80 cents and 40? Yeah, I mean, you can have double the supply if your average buy-in was at 40 cents than if you at 80 cents. But guess what? People who invested with an average purchase price of 80 cents are going to have a lot of money when Cardano's sitting at 7 cents. And this is something I'll talk about this in a future video. This was something I actually had a video planned to do over on Coffee and Crypto. Never got time to actually shoot it. So we're going to shoot it, at least lay it out for people here in the next couple of weeks. Doing some basic math and then looking at history of how the crypto markets have moved and looking at the total market cap for crypto. And taking some liberties with predictions of what percentage these projects might be able to keep. I actually have been doing a lot of digging into what are potential prices in the next bull market for crypto, such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano. I think I have a couple others. But ultimately, it's really hard right now to think about $10 Cardano, $20,000 Ethereum, $130,000 Bitcoin, because we're so pessimistic. It's so bearish right now. But if you could back up and take emotions out of it and just look at the history of how crypto markets move, if we see any type of consistency, not even necessarily going overly bullish, if we just see a consistency of growth patterns for a bull market, you might be extremely surprised at how high some of these cryptos can climb if they even if they lose a little bit of their domination on the market. Like Bitcoin, I don't expect Bitcoin to get back up to 50%. Maybe at the next bear market, maybe, but I'm kind of in the boat of like, I don't think Bitcoin's ever going to see 50% dominance ever again. I think Ethereum's going to drop in dominance a little bit. I think some of these other altcoins like Cardano could raise, but let's just say Cardano keeps its current level that it's had at the peak of every other bull market. You're going to be surprised at how high we actually could see these prices go. And again, fight the best you can to be healthy in your life and get the lowest average buy-in, but don't cry over spilled milk if you can't get it down to the absolute lowest. If your price is sitting at 80 cents, $1, even if it was like $1, it's still going to be good by the end of this next bull market. We'll talk about that in a future video. But great question there, Gia. Great point. I love thinking through and addressing that kind of stuff because I wrestle with it in my brain too. And I'm sure T-Shroom, I'm sure you wrestle with that desire to just buy a little bit lower, a little bit lower, a little bit lower. But
yeah, it's all, strategy, and, you just got to do what makes the most sense to you, and, just keep to those principles of not investing any more than you can afford to lose, and you should be okay as long as you're convicted about those assets you're in. If you're somebody who's doing that with something like ApeCoin or something like Dogecoin, it's a little bit more sketchy. Even with NFTs, if you're continuing to pour money month over month into those things, you want to be very, very sure that that's going to eventually have some upside, just in general, or you could be setting yourself up for failure down the road. All right, so yeah, there's definitely been a decent amount of chats, and thank you guys so much for everything that you're doing and staying engaged. Casha Cats asked a question. Would like to hear some of your insights on ISO 222 coins. So I've actually been doing a pretty big deep dive into that, and it's like, in my mind, it's kind of like crypto is trying to get in line for international regulation and international payment, like payment systems and things like that. So basically there's this giant international payment clearinghouse called SWIFT, and it's what the big banks use to pay each other internationally. And there's like programming languages within that, and they're about to update the programming language to this new system, and it's going to specifically target kind of the messaging. So like if Bank of America is asking some bank in Singapore, hey, we need you to send $100,000 over for your account to our account, then that messaging, the way that's coded and everything like that, is going to get updated. And so a lot of cryptos are rushing to be the rails that money is sent on, and so that they can gather a fee, and also so that they can lock down partnerships with these large institutions. So what do I think about it? I think it's a next step in the evolution of international, payment systems, and it's good that crypto is kind of getting its foot in the door there. It seems like Quant is kind of in the lead from everything I've been looking at so far, but I'm definitely far from an expert on ISO 222. So it's not like I know everything about it. But Quant, if you were really wanting to make a play based on that thesis, Quant is looking like kind of the move. XRP is definitely in the lead as well, or it's made some good progress, but there's a lot of reasons why you may not be as attracted to get into XRP. So, Quant's kind of the name of the game. I'd be interested to see what you guys have to say about that, especially Casha Cats, the one who asked that question. So I think we're probably ready to start covering. The market's open now. So
yeah, did you see anything pop over on the market open?
Well, let's take a look. I have Matic. I was taking a look at Matic, but the big name that I'm interested in right now is UNG, because UNG, then that's U.S. natural gas, just broke down several support levels, and now it's breaking down this support level that it hasn't broken in a while. Back in November 16th, it tested it, but wicked back into that support, and now it's breaking through. So yesterday I talked about how I took a position both ways. So now I'm actually suffering an economic loss on that. So I went both ways, but I've left it uneven to the upside. So I went into BOIL, the ETF that's bullish on natural gas, more than I did cold. At this point in time, I'm still fine with that. If you look over at the what is this called? It's not a VPVR.
What?
Because you showed me
it's fixed range. It's a fixed range.
If you look at if you look at the fixed range VPVR, you can see that there's a couple levels here. It's really flirting with this 1850, call it more like 1963 level, and it's probably going to find support there. If it doesn't, it'll break down to 19. I'm DCAing these levels. Again, guys, this is, I don't expect people to be diving into UNG just because I'm doing it. It's just an asset. It's a commodity, an asset class that I've found a lot of success with trading recently. And so, if you don't understand how to trade it in the kind of the method that I'm working with, that's okay. But so at market open today, though, we're seeing UNG really tank. And, that has a lot to do with how governments subsidize natural gas industries going into the winter months. And, but what I'm betting is that they're not going to be able to subsidize against the demand. I think the demand's going to be too high, and they're not going to be able to do much with that. And also oil prices, are coming up too, which is just going to create further demand for oil alternatives, which natural gas is one of them. So I'm keeping both my long and my short. Obviously, I'm up on my short quite a bit, but I, am down on my long. So what do I do? Well, I'm going to just buy more natural gas ETFs that are long on the spot price. Moving along, though, this will lead nicely into our market pulls here. The SPY, the NASDAQ, and the Dow Jones are all opening in the red this morning with pretty deep losses so far. The NASDAQ well into 1% and change losses. And so, you're starting to see it. Why is the SQQ up? Oh, because that's the short. So the SQQ, the triple leverage short of the NASDAQ, obviously is up quite a bit. So if you took a position yesterday on that, you're doing pretty well. Moving into crypto, Bitcoin opening up, moderate losses, but Ethereum making up, losses from yesterday and, coming in strong. So opening green.
Yeah, I think the thing when you're looking at all the charts, you don't need to go to my screen or anything, but anyone looking at their charts in the in the tertiary trend this morning, smaller trends, yeah, there's some red going on, but when you zoom out a little bit, everything is on the upswing. Everything is moving. Everything's setting higher highs and higher lows right now on at least a secondary trend. Maybe not the primary. Primary, you're definitely still bearish on almost everything you got. But secondary, we are starting to move into some more bullish nature here, which could mean that the next couple of weeks, months, maybe we finish out the year. And that historically happens, actually. As you get closer into quarter four, you actually usually do, even if you're in a bear market, start to have a little bit more bullish. That does not mean that the bear market is over, does not mean the bottom is in, but it does mean prepare yourself for the next weeks, maybe even a couple months, to be more bullish before more pain hits the market. So the good thing about red days is red days set up very nicely for some green days coming down the road. Better buy spots for good trades. So just because you're seeing red, don't discourage. Look, that's what I'm going to be really big on, especially being in a bullish secondary trend, T-Shrim. We got to make sure we're like setting up and looking at this stuff to tell people like, this is great. This is going to be really good because this is a great buying opportunity for you guys to be trading and DCAing in.
Yeah. Well, what we can do is look at the month candlestick for the S&P. So the S&P, as you'll see, it's quite a bit off its highs from, I assume that's from January 2002. It's corrected quite a bit, but it's also broken through the support, and it's trying to make that resistance now. The Dow has done that. Let's see if the Dow has done that much more effectively, as we talked about yesterday. That has more industrial names, so it has a little bit stronger of a value statement. So, but from a monthly candlestick point of view, the S&P, it has some ways to go before I'll draw a line and kind of guesstimate. It has a decent amount to fall. It's not like this is the end of it today. And we're going to get into in the market pulse why the S&P is down. It's honestly not extremely clear, but it obviously has to do with the data print we just got with the non-farm payroll. So zooming back in on just the market open, crypto very much mixed. XRP leading downwards, at least on this watch list. Litecoin also coming down quite a bit there in the early trading minutes. Atom and Matic doing pretty well. Cake doing okay. I'm sure you guys don't care too much about Cake. That's my little yield farm that I use. Okay, silver coming in lower and gold coming in lower. and steel, which is unrelated to precious metals, but it's just a metal that I have on here. And then the big tech names coming in lower. They were up quite a bit yesterday on the Fed speech, and now they're just retracing some of those gains. Treasuries up very big, and we're going to get into why that is in just a second. You can kind of guess, because the British bonds are not seeing green, although they're not down that much. It has to do with American economic data. The Dixie up. The Dixie usually follows the bond yields. Cannabis stocks, I'm not going to get into that thesis, but I have too many cannabis stocks right now, and I'm in quite a loss for that. So and then mid cap stocks doing even worse than the big cap tech stocks. Oil companies doing pretty well. I don't think we're going to do as exhaustive of an market open in the future, but that's what that is. So let's get into the market pulse, guys. That's our market open for today. It's been, overall, I'd say there's definitely a bearish tone to the market today, and that has to do with this. So this is the non-farm payroll numbers that came out. We're gonna be reading some headlines on this, but so non-farm payroll, the forecast was, and this is how many jobs were added in November, right, to the U.S. economy. So the forecast was 200K, the actual was 263. So folks are hiring right now aggressively. That's kind of the takeaway. The unemployment rate was unchanged and also met the forecast. So kind of a neutral but slightly bullish thing there. But let's read these headlines, guys, because as we just saw, the New York Stock Exchange, the indexes are not trending bearish not trending bullish on this news as you might think they would. So let's read some of the headlines. This is from Bloomberg. Eye-popping U.S. wage gains complicate inflation fight. Bank of America says sell equities rally before 2023 unemployment shock. Futures slump as hot jobs data boosts bond yields. U.S. hires and wages extend strong gains, keeping pressure on the Fed.
Can we pause there for just a second? What is this data that's coming in? Because first of all, people respond to this data, but what is it tracking exactly? I'm watching other headlines. Companies are making massive layoffs. There's a lot of stress. Also, this is the holiday season. There's a lot of seasonal jobs. So do seasonal jobs go into this count? Because this could just be companies hiring people for the Christmas season. They're going to hire them temporarily for about a month and a half, get through New Year's and get into January, and then they're going to lay them off then. So when we're expecting the job market to continue to crash. That's one of the things Jerome Powell is keeping an eye on when he's looking at what he's doing with interest rates. But we're seeing the numbers continue to climb. How much of that is actual real jobs? Like, do they count like seasonal jobs as full-time jobs, in which case this is very diluted data?
It's a good question. Honestly, I don't know. I'm trying to get my head around this reaction. Part of me says that this is only going to really be a story for today, and then the market's going to react to different things next week. But there is kind of this narrative that, let's see.
Cashy Cat says seasonal jobs are included. And if that's the case, then this is very, very diluted information that's going to is going to not give the full picture. And so if people are responding negatively to that news, thinking, oh, the job market's still strong. No, the job market is not so strong. Like, this is one of the things, like, I like data, but sometimes you just got to turn on your thinking cap and say, hey, data can be deceiving, and this is this is a situation where that is a very deceiving data. I bet you there were millions and millions of seasonal jobs. Like, even the job you're working right now is a seasonal job, right? And it's one of those things that, like, they need more and more. Like, they need more people, but of course here in January or stuff, they're not going to need that anymore. Correct?
Exactly. I'm working a seasonal job, and it's done at the end of January. So, But yeah, so kind of going back, and that's a good point. The seasonal jobs is also counted in there. But so the Wall Street Journal says U.S. economy adds the number that they 263,000 jobs in November with a neutral headline there. And then CNBC says payrolls and wages below past expectations, flying in the face of Fed rate hikes. And then they go on to quote Jerome, and his most refreshed statement on the labor market is, to be clear, strong wage growth is a good thing, But for wage growth to be sustainable, it needs to be consistent with 2% inflation, he said during a speech on Wednesday in Washington, D.C. So basically what that means to me is that he doesn't really care. Well, he cares where the labor market is, but unless inflation is at 2%, then we're not getting accurate readings of the labor market. So he, basically kind of the implication there is that he cares much more about inflation right now, and that's the main focus, and that's it's consistent with what he's been saying since they've started these rate hikes. So going back to my screen, you can see the CME future rate, the CME future Fed rate hike predictor is predicting 75%. So it's actually come up since yesterday, meaning it's more likely to be a 50 basis point hike. So there's a lot of confusion in the market. That's kind of what I'm picking up on right now. Is there's just a ton of confusion, and the S&P is coming down because of that. So indexes are retracing some of their gains from yesterday, and it's not looking like a bullish day. So it's probably going to close more red, but we shall see. I mean, things can change. Like I said, I think that this story is big like right now, but I think next week the economic narrative is going to be, and kind of the trader and investment narrative is going to be centered around something else.
That
Not
makes
exactly
sense.
Sure what that would be yet.
That makes sense. Well, it's 9:45. Let's jump into the Coinbase wallet with XRP information and what potentially is going on there. I know some people almost act like this shut case, but is it potentially possible that the reason they announced wasn't the real reason that they're actually delisting XRP?
Yeah. So here's kind of what I'm thinking, and this was our clever thumbnail for the day, is that Coinbase as an institution, they're very much more snuggled up to the American regulatory establishment and really the global regulatory establishment than other exchanges like FTX was, and Binance, and all of the myriad of other decentralized exchanges. And what you can conclude from that is that they are more likely to be anti-XRP, because XRP is fighting this extremely epic battle against the SEC that's just dragging on and dragging on. And if you go to my screen, you may recall, this may be news to you actually, Coinbase was selected by BlackRock to provide Aladdin clients access to crypto trading and custody via Coinbase Prime. So what does that mean? I mean, that means essentially that one of the world's largest banks, BlackRock, who has, I think, the largest capital under management in the world, Coinbase is pretty snuggled up with them. And that could work in the favor of crypto in the long term, potentially. We don't know. But BlackRock doesn't have the best reputation. I mean, the biggest and worst thing that they're doing is they're buying up North American real estate, and they're jacking up the prices. And, can you blame them though? I mean, that's where they want to put their money. They want to put it into lower risk assets like real estate. But the consequence of that is that young Americans like myself find it more difficult to purchase homes because they're artificially inflating the price of, I guess artificial isn't the word because they're part of the market, but they're inflating the price of real estate. Anyway, BlackRock, that's just the beginning of the nefarious behavior over at BlackRock. I mean, ESG is something that they kind of spun up, and as we've heard from Sam Bankman-Fried, as much of a bad actor as he is right now and has been, he has kind of been the whistleblower, the Edward Snowden, if you will, for ESG, saying straight up, this ESG is just a tool essentially for corporations to look like the good guy and then get subsidies and get grants from the government because they're polluting less or they're hiring, equitably to their standards. And, some of those things are things that society needs to prioritize and be, mindful of, but should the stock market be buying and selling shares based on corporations' ESG scores is a whole nother thing. And BlackRock believes it should. Coinbase is now snuggling up with BlackRock. How does this all tie back in? So, I kind of think here that you can't rule out that BlackRock wasn't pressuring Coinbase to start to delist XRP so that it can move forward with whatever agenda it has. And that's where my knowledge stops. That's
Let's think through. Let's just like do a chain reaction of relationships we know exist, right? So first of all, we know that we know that Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX partnered with a lot of people such as Gary Gensler. Well, guess what Gary Gensler does?
Yeah.
He works for the SEC.
Exactly.
Guess what the SEC is doing? It's fighting with XRP right now. Guess what other connection had been made? And there's a lot of rumors out there that Coinbase and Brian Armstrong, the CEO over there, had a lot more of a closer relationship with SBF than what he really wanted to let go, let happen. What is Brian Armstrong? Just what we talked about. He's in bed now with Blackrock. Well, what is Blackrock? BlackRock is one of the largest financial institutions out there that has manipulated and controlled the space for decades. Yeah. They are an evil player themselves. We are not necessarily saying absolutely this has to be the one reason. But there's no reason to think. I know someone said out there that they thought like, well, maybe this is they know something about the SEC lawsuit with XRP and the SEC is going to win. I haven't seen anything come out that would make us think that, other than crypto is being released. People are scared of crypto right now. Mm-hmm. But when you're looking at all these manipulators in this space and the relationships and the ties that they have, and then you think about what XRP can do, it would make a lot of sense for these players, these manipulators, these people who want control, seeing something like XRP. Now, they know they cannot touch Bitcoin at the moment because Bitcoin has been able to keep itself out of the realm of being classified as a security. It just cannot be touched. That's the beauty of Bitcoin. XRP is a beautiful project, but it doesn't have the same things as Bitcoin that allows it not to be touched. It is fishy. Everything that's come out here is fishy. And even Brian Armstrong and Coinbase, I'm not even going to say necessarily that I think he's maliciously going against it. Mm-hmm. This might be he did not want to delist it from the wallet, but he likes not, getting a lot of stuff exposed. He likes keeping his investor happy. There were a lot of rumors out there that Coinbase was struggling, and then those rumors just went to sleep after we found out there was a relationship with BlackRock. What if more happened with that relationship where there was actually some truth to that? Maybe Coinbase was in trouble when it comes to a solvency issue, and BlackRock came in and sufficed that. Well, now, even if Brian doesn't have anything against XRP, if he's trying to keep BlackRock happy and BlackRock says we do not want to work with the likes of XRP, that would make a lot of sense why Brian would go ahead and say, you know what, let me just say that the usage is low. We'll get rid of some others as well. There's low usage. Well, no duh, Brian, there's low usage. You won't let people buy it on your exchange. So your whole usage case is dependent on people buying it on other projects and then bringing it over to your wallet. Why? Most people who are wanting to buy XRP are not wanting to use a Coinbase wallet. They want to take it over to a private wallet, a cold wallet. So yeah, the usage in a Coinbase wallet, the majority of usage is going to come from people purchasing things on Coinbase, the exchange. And when you can't purchase on the exchange, you're not going to have high usage. So that being an excuse, if that was the excuse, he should have done it a long time ago. I think that's a convenient excuse that has something a lot deeper. Is it BlackRock or not? Maybe not, but I think there is something bigger in play there, and it's not as simple as just, oh, well, there's not high usage, so we're getting rid of it. If that was the case, he would have done it a very long time ago.
Mm-hmm. Well, Kashikats makes an interesting point. He says, it trips me though, Coinbase file an amicus brief in favor of Ripple. And if you go to my screen, which I'm telling myself to do that.
So you're the technical.
You'll see, if you look at my screen, which is the same screen that you've been looking at, so you don't need to change anything. It says, it says exactly that. Coinbase files amicus brief in Ripple case after getting go-ahead from Judge Torres. And and dailycoin.com has kind of caricatured Coinbase as helping out XRP. Presumably, this is XRP's CEO, but what is it, Brad Gerlinghouse? But the reality is we just don't know, and we don't know exactly. I mean, that could be, if you've ever read any kind of war theory, Sun Tzu's Art of War, that could just be to kind of throw off the scent that Coinbase and BlackRock are coming for coins that are anti-establishment, you could say.
Even more so, I don't even think you need to. You might not even have to go as far as say that Brian knew exactly what he was doing. Brian might be in full support of XRP, and he might have, as CEO of Coinbase, made that decision, and it's great.
Yeah.
Then he gets a phone call from his friend BlackRock saying, we don't like XRP.
Yeah.
Go ahead and get them off your wallet. Let's start making a slow. I know you've come out in favor of XRP. Let's start making a slow exit from XRP so that they don't get any more support, because we know that they're kicking our friend Gary Gensler's butt over here in this lawsuit, and we don't need them getting any more support than they need. If you go ahead and just delist them from your wallet, you can say whatever excuse you want. It will cause people to be a little bit more skeptical of XRP price, and that's the battle that XRP is going to be fighting. I still think they're going to win the lawsuit, but what's going to happen is just because they win the lawsuit does not mean when people say, oh, wait for XRP to explode, implode. I think they will rally. I think there is some suppressed price there. But I don't think it's like this thought of like, oh, once XRP wins, it's going to be this like 10x immediately overnight thing. XRP still has to wrestle with and overcome the negative sentiment in the space. There are people right now who, no matter what happens, they're going to hate XRP no matter how good it is. And what XRP is going to need for a significant rally, it's going to take a lot of time to change current investors' minds. They're going to need a fresh batch of people who have not heard anything positive or negative about XRP to come into the space. And anything that Blackrock can do, that any of their players, the SEC, if they can do anything to suppress that and continue to have a negative narrative around XRP, they might know they're not going to win the war, but it's almost like if I can win enough battles, I can at least delay my loss and scavenge for something else down the road.
I love that word, scavenge. That's good. Well, let's do a quick checkup on natural gas, and we'll get into that Binance story if that's cool with you. So, Tim,
we go. We got the dating bots back in chat.
That's nice.
That's like this early in the game we get our dating bots. That's always fun.
If you're looking to find some love in the city, you check out our sponsors. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so
oh my gosh,
that's so vague. The city. All right, so natural gas, is looking like, if it doesn't break down out of this bottom support, heck, I mean, that's a buy, right? You see how it's traded in these channels. You see how it hasn't really broken below this VPVR here. In my mind, this is a buy, and I'm definitely going to be buying more BOIL today, BOIL. Not financial advice, but yeah. So we didn't want to show that, so we're gonna get to that story in just a second there. Just another little tease. We're gonna be talking about this Kanye story, and we may be going in to overtime to talk a little bit about it. But we got to definitely talk about Binance pausing withdrawals amid 5 million Ankor infinite mint hack. And the article gets into it a little bit, but 2022 is becoming kind of the year of the hack, right? I think there actually was a larger quantity hacked in previous years, but let's read about this one. It was hacked in the early hours of Friday today, in the early hours of Friday, with the attacker leveraging the smart contracts for a BNB-C token that allowed them to create an infinite amount of this token. This token represents a staked version of Binance token that earns rewards on Ankor. The token's price has collapsed 99.5% since the attack, according to CoinGecko. Now you might be thinking, wait, BNB has collapsed 99%? No, it's not. If you look here, honestly, not really much has happened to BNB. It's fine. So what is it talking about? Well, this is the wrapped version of BNB, and it has absolutely gotten destroyed. Now, what I will say, guys, is when I've seen coins get totally and utterly destroyed, I mean, this thing went from 300 to 0, close to 0. So right now it's at 150. This is definitely not financial advice, but sometimes when this happens, it'll spike back up quite a bit as the project tries to save it. I'm not saying that's going to happen here. In fact, we're going to read a little bit more and it may show that it's not going to happen. But sometimes, when things go to 0, they don't, they come back up, and sometimes they go to like 3 or 4. So just, and that's a huge percentage increase. Continuing reading though. That was my 10 hat for the day. So they swapped many of these tokens for the stablecoin USDC. This is talking about the hackers once they had hacked in. Actually, let's not skip over that part. So it was hacked in the early hours, and then they just printed this staked version of BNB. And the number of tokens created is unclear, but some reports indicate that they were mint as much as 60 trillion, which is just an insane number. I don't know what the total number was. Let's see if Ankor has if CoinGecko has any kind of indication of that. CoinMarketCap, it has a question mark, circulating supply question mark, 24-hour trading volume 7 million. So there's definitely some fundamental breakage going on over at Ankor, which is unfortunate to see, because this is not a small platform. This is a very large platform, and they're suffering some serious structural issues here with this hack.
The biggest thing about this, T-Shroom, I think that it's kind of rough on people, is you're watching what's happening, obviously, with FTX and public exchanges, centralized exchanges. And what's the huge narrative? Not your keys, not your crypto. Get your money off. Don't trust these centralized exchanges. When you want to buy crypto, use some of these DeFi protocols. Because all these public exchanges, these centralized exchanges, they're committing fraud. They're getting, they're going insolvent, and so people are rushing over to DeFi. And then we're seeing over the DeFi space, this isn't the first and probably won't be the last DeFi protocol that gets hacked. They're not going insolvent, they're getting hacked. And so it's like you could lose your money from a centralized exchange buying over there because they just go insolvent, or you could lose your money from DeFi protocols because it gets hacked and gets stolen. This is not a good day for crypto. I mean, this isn't a good story for crypto. People are ultimately, especially those who purchased around that $69,000 top of Bitcoin, and I'm saying that just as a time frame for every other crypto, whatever they bought in, that was the peak. They've just been hit left and right. They've been nothing but in the red, and now they don't even know where to hold their money. Or they don't know what they know they should know to go hold their money in a cold wallet, but they don't know where to go buy crypto. They don't know where to do their trading because it just seems like everywhere you go, centralized, decentralized, you'll lose your money one way or another. So it is going to be interesting to watch. This is another reason why, and I'm not saying that it's impossible for this to happen to them, but another reason why I like Cardano so much and I like Charles Hoskinson so much is because of stories like this. Not that I think that Ankor and Binance are, and all this stuff. Not that I think that they're like terrible. It's just I don't think anyone in the space has prioritized security the way Charles Hoskinson has, and it's made him move slow, and it's made Cardano go slow, and it makes them be really picky about who they partner with. But I'm really hoping that stories like this, that people, rather than just flooding out of the space and saying, that's it, crypto's done, it's stupid, it's over, I hope that it just causes people to start prioritizing security and safety, even if it means I got to wait and be patient a little bit. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, not your keys, not your crypto is definitely, the rallying cry of this year, because today's attack, though far from the largest, puts 2022 closer to becoming one of the most lucrative years for hackers. According to crypto sleuthing firm Chainalytics, more than $3 billion has been stolen from various crypto protocols. Last year, the total was $3.2 billion, so we've yet to breach that all-time high. But man, it's not, and it's a lot of it's happening on these bridges, right? And I believe this was pretty similar. It was happening to, I believe it was happening to kind of the bridge there of Ankor to BNB. So it's unfortunate, guys, but you gotta. In this new world of finance, one thing that we're learning is you have to be responsible. If we're going to be eliminating banks, right? Banks did a lot for the security of your funds. Unfortunately, those funds were inflationary, right? So your money can still get stolen through inflation, but you're going to have to be much more on top of your own security. And the people in this chat know that. There's probably some new folks tuning in who didn't. Kanye West is in the news a little bit here.
changing the subject.
So there's going to be some trigger warning. There's going to be some scary words here and maybe even some scary images. But this is TMZ.com, right? So, and we're really getting down in the dirt here at the end of the show here, but Kanye West posts Nazi swastika image and Elon Musk suspends him from Twitter. So there he is, the troubled celebrity Kanye. And he is just, I'm going to scroll past this pretty quick because it's, it's a swastika and he's posting on, we don't want to, distribute that image. So scrolling past it pretty quick, but it's a swastika. He posted it on Twitter and he also said, let's always remember this is my final tweet. So he knew he was going to be getting banned. And, this is Elon getting sprayed. I don't know how aggressive that really is. I mean, I guess it's, a little bit sad for Elon, but I think Elon was not necessarily embarrassed by this. So this is what happened. This is what Kanye looked like on InfoWars. And, if you wanted to go watch the whole clip, it's not that bad. It's not like scary or anything, but he gets on there and Tim had some thoughts on this.
He makes the ultimate stupid comment I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, you just don't ever say that Hitler was a good guy in any way. And that's what he did. He could have done a lot of things. I understood where he was going. It's one of those things that it's going to hurt a lot of people. Some people didn't like any of it. I can understand his logic where he was going with the concept of every single human has done something of importance. And he was talking about the things that were discovered and created under the leadership of Hitler. And if he had said the line, even Hitler, like, I'm kind of like, I know it's going to hurt people and people aren't going to like that. But at least you can kind of be like, I mean, I guess I see what you're saying. Every person has value. You're one of those people that, even evil and good people have both in them. But the fact that he said the words, especially, that's the one. He says, I believe there's value in every person, especially Hitler. And I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Kanye. Like, there's no defending him. Like, anyone who could have been in his corner and said, you know what, I know he said some troubling things, but his intentions, those words just screwed all intentions. I am a believer of sometimes people misspeak. They say things they really shouldn't have said, but if you pay attention to what they're trying to imply, there's value in it, right? I was with him, even though I disagree with certain comments he made, I at least understood and respected his comments up until that point. And the choice of the words, especially Hitler, where I was like, I'm out. Like, I can't even. Like, there's no defending what Kanye's positions are at this point.
Yeah.
And here's the really troubling thing. There is a lot of stuff, and what he's doing will make it so that we will never fully actually understand what has been happening with him behind the scenes. Those reports of him being drugged and him being told he's crazy, the text messages that came out between him and his trainer, where the trainer's pretty much threatening him to put him back on heavy medication. Everyone for the longest time we were told Kanye is bipolar, and we're like, okay, he's crazy. But then he kind of comes out almost like, no, I'm not bipolar. They were drugging me. They were making me crazy. So you're like, oh no, is this like, that's believable too. The fact that he said that, which I'm assuming, he's been away from his trainer, he's been away from the medication they're making him take. The fact that he said that on his own is kind of like, oh no, I mean, yeah, he might actually be bipolar. He might actually be kind of crazy.
Yeah.
The fact that he said that.
So just to kind of wrap up here on this crazy development for Twitter, during the bizarre discussion on Alex Jones's show, InfoWars, Jones tried to denounce the Nazis, but Kanye wouldn't let him, insisting they did good things too. We are going to stop dissing the Nazis. And before a commercial break, Kanye shockingly admitted, I like Hitler. So
yeah.
You're going to be in the bad public spotlight if Alex Jones is having to defend you and trying to help you realize that you're saying the wrong things, things that aren't going to be popular with people.
He's literally trying to coach him out of saying anything, and Kanye just says nope.
And Alex Jones,
I'm going full blown,
is the guy right now who owes an infinite amount of money to people from lawsuits for saying things that got him into a ton of trouble. He's never going to be out of debt from that. And then just to show you guys one more thing. So, so Ben Shapiro has reacted to it. He said, Ye is clearly suffering from a mental breakdown. It's an act of cruelty to have him on the air at this point. He needs treatment, not a spotlight. Obviously, I agree with that. But I think to call someone crazy, I mean, he was on InfoWars with a mask on. It's hard to say he's not crazy, but to call somebody crazy, I think sometimes is unproductive, because I think Kanye may actually think he has some kind of strategy here. I mean, he's declared he's running for president, I guess, for whatever that's worth. Shocking, breaking news. His campaign's not going super well.
It's not going to go super well
right now. But I think he may think that he's trying to position himself for some kind of thing. Because if you look at the narrative, right, he was this big Christian leader in 2021, 2020.
Something like that.
And even some of the churches that that are here in Gainesville that I've been to, they were kind of saying, hey, look, we have a celebrity, and they kind of elevated Kanye in that moment. And now it's like he's just done a complete 360, and now he's like Hitler's friend, and it's like, what is he going for here?
His only fan base at this point would be neo-Nazis and white supremacists.
Yeah.
That would be the only, like I understood up until this point why other Christians or conservatives might still agree with him. I thought some things he was doing was crazy, but I was like, I get it. I understand. It makes sense. There's just no way any rationally thinking person is going to still be supportive of him. And I think that this is, like I said, this is why it's so sad. We will never know the truth, because the truth is going to be somewhere in the middle. I think that he was drugged, that he wasn't as crazy as what his handlers, and I think that's the right way to put it, his handlers were trying to convince everybody he was crazy. But maybe in the process of that whole thing, and someone put in chat, Kim messed him up, maybe in the process of being drugged for so many years, being called one thing not being, his wife leaves him, his wife starts spreading lies, his wife has her own handlers, and she's going through her own thing with a bunch of people. Has all of the fake news driven him crazy, and now it's a reality he actually is crazy? Yeah. And it's sad.
Well, I mean, he's been legitimately in and out of rehab,
But when you're heavily medicated, did you see the text between him and his trainer?
No.
So there, okay, yeah, we don't have time to get into the details. His trainer, who was supposed to, just his workout trainer, there's text messages threatening to put him on heavier medication. If you keep talking like this, I'm gonna get you a higher dose, yada yada. Like, he was being medicated to lose his mind.
And if you're on that kind of like heavy medication and then you're off of it, things usually don't go so well. And I do kind of agree with Ben here. It's like probably not the best judgment for Alex to have Kanye on during this time and give him
Alex
even
Jones,
more of a platform.
we can't think too highly of the situation.
So here's my hot take, right? I think that there's a possibility that Kanye is thinking that he's got some kind of like strategy here, right? Where I think what he's thinking is like, I'm gonna get myself all the way to zero, and then I'm going to show the world that I can come back from zero. And it's kind of like when Trump said that he could go to Manhattan and shoot somebody and he'd still win the presidency. And he did. He didn't shoot somebody, but he said that, and that's kind of the same type of thing where it's like, I'm so powerful that I can do whatever I want. And I can go all the way down to zero and then come back up to fame. But I mean, he's lost this contract with Adidas, which was his big cash cow, and I don't think Trump likes him anymore. Elon doesn't like him anymore. Those were his biggest allies in the world. And so I don't know where you go from here if you're Kanye, other than rehab and probably just out of the public spotlight altogether. But I still think that there's a possibility that he's got something up his sleeve that's going to redeem himself. I just don't know what that could be. Unless he goes,
I don't think so.
Saves like a ship of people who are going to drown. I don't know. I don't know what you do at this point.
In the current world we live in with cancel culture. So cancel culture is going to obviously, he's already been canceled, but even further, right? And then even rational people who don't believe in cancel culture are going to be like, it's just, at this point, what could you ever hear him say that would change your mind on his mental state? Well, I don't know if there is anything.
I mean, if he did some kind of interview where he revealed that he was trying to manipulate everybody during this time and he knew exactly what he was doing, and that obviously he doesn't side with Hitler, but he was just doing some kind of social experiment at a grand scale, something like that. No. But it's like, that is, what do you really gain from that? So I don't know.
This is what needs to happen. Here's the thing. So I'm going to actually quote Kanye here.
Okay.
And I'll get canceled. What's gonna happen? Every person does have value, and yay, you have value.
That's right.
It's time for you to get out of the limelight. It's time for his celebrity status to go away. He will no longer be able to be in the limelight, be in public, and have any type of real sway. What he needs to do is retire. He needs to go, and I know paparazzi are going to follow him wherever he goes. But I'm saying is he needs to just. He has more money than he knows what to do with. Just go retire, get some help, rest. Let's say he is a Christian, because here's another thing. Christians say crazy things. In all reality, I hate when people like almost act like, well, you're a Christian, so you can't do anything evil. And the minute you do something evil, you're like, no, listen. The hope of Jesus Christ and the hope of the gospel is that he came to save the lost and the least. Guess what the lost and the least do? The lost and least are constantly doing crazy things, stupid things, evil things. They're the reason Jesus had to do everything he did. I'm not going to throw necessarily and say that I don't believe Kanye is a Christian. I believe Kanye is troubled. I think he needs help. He needs Jesus to continue to sanctify and grow him. And guess what? That needs to be away from the limelight. That needs to be away from cameras. That needs to be away from running public spaces. He needs to go be alone, become a normal person again. Just go be with Jesus, Kanye, in terms of just go spend time with him. The time you do get to spend with your kids, we'll see how much more he gets after this. I don't know what Kim's going to do with judges to convince them, hey, he's dangerous for the kids. But if you can still spend time with your kids, go spend time with your kids, Kanye. Your life is valuable, but it probably just shouldn't be public anymore. Go spend time with your friends, your family, your loved ones, and live out your days privately like the rest of us.
Yeah. I think that's the take.
Yeah. Well, I think that's about it. We ran long today. You know, T-shirt didn't have work, so yeah. Anytime he doesn't have work, we might run a little bit longer here. It's always so much that we could talk about that we don't have time to. So we'll find ways in the future. Thank you so much for continuing to support us in this new stuff. We got a lot to learn, a lot to grow, a lot to organize this show. But give us suggestions in the comment section in chat. What you guys want to see, how you guys want to see us respond in the future. How can we in 1 hour could cover all the technical analysis we want to cover all the news stories, break them down, kind of talk about them. And at the same time, still, we really want to engage with you guys because, as I said, you guys are just as important as we are in this space. You guys are going to see mine and T-Shroom's faces, but for people to grow, when new people come in, when new people subscribe, I want them to learn just as much, getting to talk to every single one of you guys in chat as they do watching us. So continue to help us out. Let us know what you guys would love to see in the future. Make sure if you have not already, smash that like button on the way out. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Comment below. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything. We will be back next week on Monday. This is Friday, so last show of the week. We'll be back next Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Look for big things in the future, but we love each and every single last one of you, and hopefully this episode doesn't cut out early. We have a new system in place. We have a good idea on how to do this.
Oh, no, baby. I got you this time.
Yeah. Well, we love you guys. We will see you on Monday. Adios.